The history of the Dordoi Association dates back to December 5, 1991. On this day, the Dordoi market was founded in a wetlands on the northern outskirts of Bishkek. Having started its activity in the year of independence in the Kyrgyz Republic, Dordoi is essentially a pioneer of domestic business. Over time, it turned into a land hub with a trade and logistics complex of international importance. At that time, things were sold at the Osh, Alamidin, and the Ortosai markets. Merchants were dispersed because there were no conditions, there were no parking lots, no toilets. Residents of the neighborhood were indignant. They said, "When will there be a civilized trade in things?" And then I thought, why can't we unite everyone in one place and organize a civilized trade in things? If you think about it, it was a commercial project. We understood that the market should be at the crossroads of important paths. On the one side, Kazakhstan, on the other, Uzbekistan, so we chose a bypass road where we found a place. Then, an appropriate decision was made, and all the merchants began to sell things there. I cannot say that I was the only one who founded Dordoi. The founders were Kubat Baybolov, my brother, Sharshin by Mat Kabilov, and I. We assembled a team and carried out organizational work. Such a mechanism appeared when the plants and factories closed, collective farms and state farms ceased to function, and people began to leave for other countries. We can say it's the mercy of God. Founder Askar Salimbekov and his team at the late 20th and early 21st century became an economic wealth of the country. Thanks to Dordoi, we survived the hungry years, and for the next 25 years, the market contributed to the formation of the middle class. The market provided jobs. Middle and upper class businessmen were formed. Each person began to earn money himself without waiting for the help from the state or the Communist Party. They used to say that the brand is Isikul and Chingiz Aitmatov, and now they say that there are three brands in Kyrgyzstan: Isikul, Chingiz Aitmatov, and Dordoi, because Dordoi is known to everyone in Central Asia. Economic project in the history of modern Kyrgyzstan. In terms of created jobs, Dordoi is a true leader in the Kyrgyz Republic. According to the World Bank, 50,000 people were directly employed in the market, and an additional 150,000 people were involved in providing ancillary services. In addition, the data showed that about 600,000 citizens were in the care of those people who worked and received income through their activities in the market. It is often criticized that plants and factories must be built in Kyrgyzstan and trade cannot survive. But Dordoi is a smoke-free factory, where you will see a factory that provides hundreds of thousands of citizens with work. But Dordoi fulfills this mission, and very successfully. Now, Dordoi is a business incubator for novice businessmen. Dordoi is a national brand. It is one of the few brands in Kyrgyzstan that is written, shown, told, and analyzed internationally, and for foreign tourists, the market is one of the attractions of our country that must be visited. According to the world-famous Forbes magazine, Dordoi entered the top 10 major markets in the world. We have learned to sell goods to other countries through Dordoi. We have become a land port. Our development path is trade and service. And the market is a force, the point where we collect goods from Asia and continue to sell them to other countries with or without a margin. We had neighborhoods that remained from the Soviet period. Not a single new house was built. Where did the new houses come from? People began to live better. They had money. They began to see good houses abroad. There was a desire to live in quality houses. Annually, 10 to 14 billion sums were directed to the construction sector. Construction companies began to develop. We learned to sell houses, then cars. Thus, Dordoi became a generator of ideas, money, and contributed to the development of other spheres. Dordoi is a huge factory with no smoke. In the history of Kyrgyzstan, there were two major projects, Dordoi and Kumtor. The only difference is that Kumtor, destroying the environment, mined and exported about 400 tons of gold, while Kyrgyzstan earned $1.5 billion within 20 years. Dordoi turned an empty field into a huge smoke-free factory where thousands of people had the opportunity to start their own business, find work, and feed their families. The goods of Kyrgyzstan went to Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and even to Ukraine and Europe, because they were expensive there and they were taken from Dordoi. I remember when the shuttles came to Istanbul, I talked to them and many said that Dordoi became a good school for them. In the 30s, when there was an economic crisis in America, people worked in the General Motors system and they said, "What is good for General Motors is good for America." Today, according to my observations, what is good for Dordoi is good for Kyrgyzstan. Dordoi is one of the main budget-forming sectors of the country. In terms of budget revenues, Dordoi is not inferior to the Kumtor Gold Mining Company. The state budget annually receives 4 to 5 billion sums from the activities of the market. In which area are there the most millionaires in Kyrgyzstan? If you take Kumtor or other spheres, there is only a few. There may be 5 to 10 people. And thanks to Dordoi, hundreds of people became millionaires who, having gained experience, were able to do business in other countries. Dordoi is a catalyst for the growth of the entire economy. According to international and domestic experts, Dordoi had a significant and multifaceted impact on the socio-economic situation in Kyrgyzstan. It gave impetus to the development of about 18 different industries and areas of the domestic economy: road, air and rail communications, light industry, financial, logistics, and other service sectors, etc. A striking example is the clothing industry, which received a huge impetus to development thanks to the Dordoi market. According to U.S. aid research, in 2020, the export of products of the garment industry in Kyrgyzstan amounted to about $150 million. About 40,000 people are employed in this industry. The emergence of such a large trade and logistics center in the region caused a multiplier effect in other sections of the economy of our country. Today's situation in the world, to say that to produce virtually any product is a small problem. The biggest problem is to find markets for these products. So, the functioning of the Dordoi trade and market complex made it possible to create logistics that connected manufacturers with consumers. The entrepreneur's interest was sacred. Everything that entrepreneurs demanded, the trade union demanded, the administration was sacred. I do not remember having irreconcilable contradictions between entrepreneurs and administration. I just don't remember such cases. We always found a common language. We always agreed. We saw that they were going to meet us halfway. Here, it's necessary to pay tribute to the administration and Askar Salimbekov, first of all, to the entrepreneur himself, who saw each other as partners. Thanks to Dordoi, there was growth. We bought new equipment from Turkey and Germany, creating a small knitting factory, and provided people with jobs. For example, my factory employs about 80 people, and our products are in high demand in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan today. I am a doctor myself. I graduated from the Medical Institute. I have worked as a doctor for more than 15 years. I am raising 4 children. At that moment, it was difficult to make living for 900 rubles. It was very difficult. That's when I left everything, taking a checkered bag, and came to Dordoi as well. I found salvation in this. I put the children on their feet thanks to Dordoi, and so did thousands of other entrepreneurs. Many merchants of Dordoi got rich, and it must be said openly, they bought housing abroad. I can also say about myself, I bought a house abroad, 2 to 3 apartments in the center, in elite and expensive houses. We must thank Allah for this. Dordoi is my home. Thanks to Dordoi, we seller grew rich. A lot of people are working here. Imagine that there are 60,000 members in the trade union alone. And how many more are working so far? My teaching experience was 18 to 20 years, but then I chose business because in the 90s it was difficult. There was inflation, and it was no longer possible to survive on a salary. Besides, I was constantly detained. Then I chose business. This year, it is already 30 years since I have been trading in Dordoi. On behalf of all sellers, I express my gratitude to the founders of the market. We could set up, fed the children, and achieved success here. Dordoi is the largest benefactor among domestic companies. Over the past 10 years, more than 500 million soms have been directed to support and develop sports, culture, education, science, youth, and socially vulnerable segments of the population. Every year, 50 million soms are allocated for the development of sports, more than 20 million soms for large-scale cultural events. 105 million soms were allocated as charitable assistance to support socially vulnerable segments of the population and to solve socio-economic issues. Dordoi is one of the main sponsors of education and science. 25 million soms were allocated to support education, hundreds of books, scientific studies, and monographs were published. Support was provided in conducting archaeological expeditions and in providing the material and technical base of various educational institutions. Scholarships for school children and students are issued on regular basis, and support is provided to young talents. Public School Young Leaders of Kyrgyzstan is one of the most important educational projects of the association. Real life poses young people with tasks that are not discussed in ordinary schools. Education standards are outdated. Our main goal is to prepare the younger generation for real life, for a market economy, and a democratic society, so that young people can feed themselves and benefit the state. We have covered all regions of the country with free training. In addition, we send students to international Olympiads, founded the Namwis Scholarship. We have an Akil Turek contest. Within the framework of Akil Turek, more than 350 young scientists and experts receive material and moral support from the fund. Dordoi revived the domestic cinemas and gave impetus to the development of domestic cinema, played a huge role in the formation of a culture of attendance and in the development of the general culture of the Kyrgyz Republic. One of the first steps in this direction was the revival of the domestic cinemas of the capital, which together with modern cinemas today are included in the Cinematics Network. From 2005 to the present, 6 cinemas have been opened, such as Oktyabr, Alato, Vefa, Cosmopark, Bishkek Park Cinema, and Dordoi Plaza. When people couldn't go to the cinemas and cinema halls were fallen to desolation, no one paid attention to them. Everyone tried to turn from cinema halls into some kind of gaming establishments, casinos, etc. It was Askar Matkabilovich who took the direction to return our cinema industry to its former purpose, its former glory. Dordoi is the #1 sponsor for domestic sports. Dordoi is the permanent leader in supporting domestic sports at a professional level. Those sports supported by Dordoi are successfully represented by Kyrgyzstan at international competitions. These are professional clubs and teams in football, in freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling, volleyball, hockey, gymnastics, boxing, karate-do, and others. In order to develop sports, an appropriate material and technical base was needed. The Dordoi Association has spent more than 130 million soms on the construction of sports facilities. To date, the football club Dordoi invariably remains in the first positions of the Kyrgyz football. The main backbone of the national team consists of Dordoi football players. Firstly, I am happy that I work in the country's leading club, Dordoi. This is a club with great ambitions, always claiming victory in every match and in any tournament in general. A lot has been done, and the wrestlers occupy high places, and the volleyball team is also on top. The football team is also in the leading roles within the country. So I think a lot of work has been done here. Dordoi is one of the main sponsors of the revival of the national game, Kok Boru. The Dordoi Association was at the origins of the revival of the national game, Kok Boru. In the mid-90s, Dordoi Association allocated 50 million soms to revive and popularize Kok Boru. Thanks to this support, Kok Boru became an international game with specific modern rules, professional clubs, and its own federation. Association Dordoi is the same age as independent Kyrgyzstan. 30 years of success, 30 creative work, hundreds of thousands of people. This is the brand that formed the first impression of Kyrgyzstan around the world, combining the thinking of nomads and a progressive look into the future. The association, which does not stop there, develops new directions, develops production, is engaged in education, supports culture and sports, remains a pillar of the people and the state. We must create conditions for the development of the economy. Now the neighbors are moving forward and we seem to be going back to the yurt. Now such technologies are developing, we must not lag behind. How many smart people we have who leave to work in large companies in the world? I have always supported presidents because the people choose them. We need the consolidation of all forces. Now is not the time to share and fight. Society must consolidate and go in one direction, towards development. Then everyone will say that the Kyrgyz have come to their senses, and we must send such a message to our neighbors and the world community.